Hi, I'm Valerie Timms, and I'm about to speak with Dick Karlsson, who is the Executive Director and the co-founder of Diakrit, a global company servicing over 2,000 real estate agencies for their photography and digital needs. Now, Diakrit started over 18 years ago. They employ over 1,000 in their team, and also they've got 10 offices globally. And Dick has graciously offered his time. I first met Dick on the digital live riding 500 kilometres across Thailand back in 2019 with a bunch of other real estate agencies. And so I know him as the legend on the bike ride who was super fit and helped everybody out. But Dick has had an incredible time. He's stationed at the moment in Sweden, which is his home, but he is a global traveller, obviously, with his company. So things have really changed for him, and he's had to manage and navigate through COVID-19. So we're going to jump straight into the interview and hear about how he has managed to pivot a business that employs over 1,000 people. Thanks, Dick.
Across the globe that depend on us for digital content and all the interactives, the digital strategy, and we have close to 500 staff in Bangkok, where all the production sits in our big global head office. So from mid-Feb, we took the decision that we have to rebuild our production systems, our security protocols, so all of our staff, including the 400 in production, they have to be able to produce from home. Our customer center that sits in Bangkok have to be able to run from home. All our offices, of course, around the world have to be able to run from home. So we basically put 5 weeks of super intense development into a project that should have taken us 2 years. So 26th of March, we were ready. So all of our staff in Bangkok moved home, which was a tremendous project. And so from 26th of March, basically all our offices are empty. And we will continue to operate like this probably for the remainder of 2020. Because the thing is, like in all countries, yes, the governments are having good control of this first phase of this pandemic, but nobody knows what's the second wave or the third wave or the fourth wave or when the vaccine will come. So from a safety first, we will have all of our staff working from home until further notice.
Yep.
And the offices are open. But with that said, we encourage everybody to work from home. So basically, everybody's working from home. And we will continue with that for the foreseeable future.
And Dick, how do you coordinate that with over 1,000 in your team?
I mean, as we do normally, we are a global digital business. We're distributed in that sense. So we had the head office in Bangkok, but as you know, in Adelaide, Ben works from the Adelaide office with Jay and the team there. We got Melbourne and Victoria and Auckland in New Zealand and Sydney, etc. So we've always been working on a digital distributed workforce. So we are really strong in digital communication, digital assets of libraries and training platforms. So all of that was already in place.
Yeah.
But for us to manage this, it all comes down to communication, taking solid decisions, of course, and acting. Because in leadership, it doesn't matter if you're 5 people or 20 people, if you're running your local coffee shop, you need to take decisions that is based on incomplete facts. Because we're all moving in an environment, well, you can listen to governments or health officials or read reports until kingdom come. But in the end, you have to take decisions based on the fragmented information you have. So it really comes down to leadership and acting. And we've been working around the clock for 10 weeks now straight. And hand on heart, I think it's taken a bit of a toll on all of us.
Yeah.
But really, we're coming into that environment now that we at least have some solid ground underneath our feet.
Yep.
And we all feel like, okay, nobody knows exactly what's going to come with the future. But if we stay safety focused first and continue to build on digital as we always have, we will most likely come out of this a better, stronger, healthier business. And safety first, that's for our staff, for our photographers, for our clients. It's been our first priority and second priority, and will continue to be that. Yeah. And I think with that as guidance, we will continue on that road.
Fantastic. And Dick, Diakrit's recently put out this incredible white paper on how, you know, companies like the Barfoot and Thompson in New Zealand, how they, within 2 days, had to go into a full lockdown. So would you mind sort of just maybe touching on the key points that came out of the white paper from Diakrit, and what are the key findings from that?
So when we came into this new environment, and Valerie, you and I spoke and chatted there early on, I mean, nobody knew, right, what was going to come. And I mean, how will this affect my business? And really nobody knew. So for us, as I said, we had to plan for the worst and really base our decisions on that. Barfoot and Thompson sitting in New Zealand, those, of course, the full lockdown 4 that they went into end of March, that was, of course, more tighter lockdown than any of us had experienced in Australia or Sweden or any parts of the world. So they really had to go into a mode of, hey, how do we service all our clients, maybe internally as agents or vendors and buyers, in a total complete lockdown when you cannot move outside your home. So for us, as a partner to them, it was a focus, of course, in a safe environment where you can only basically digitally communicate. How do you move real estate transaction forward? And all of us, as you know, I mean, in Australia, New Zealand, or Sweden, Norway, Denmark, or the US, we all depend on open homes, open inspections. You guys have auctions on site and all of that. And we've all been managing with a semi-digital process. We have some of our things digitally. We have some still in print. But I mean, in this case, they really had to go fully digital in 48 hours and basically change everything. Because when they came into lockdown 4, they had roughly 1,200 active listings on their website. I would say normally a year, Barfoot and Thompson does roughly 16,000 transactions. So it's a big business. They've been running 95 years. I believe they have 1,700 agents in Auckland alone. So they are a beast of a business. But with that said, even if they are super agile and they're digital first, of course, they have a lot of processes that are still analog, like the majority of the businesses out there. But again, they had to go digital very fast. So of course, DocuSign and signing on glass, from having physical big auction rooms in their support center to go digital platforms for auctions. And of course, a digital process. How do you communicate with your vendors and buyers in 5 weeks in a complete lockdown when you can't go face-to-face meetings? And you can clearly not run opens, and you really have to do it. And you cannot even run private inspections. You have to do everything digitally. So they basically went super agile, which they already are, and took decisions really quick on implementing digital platforms, but I think most importantly, digital processes. So in the past, as we all been running our business as well, and the majority of our 2,000 clients out there, of course, they've been running analog processes. They are used to running opens. They are used to meeting face-to-face. But what really made me very impressed with Barfoot and Thompson was that, hey, they still believe that, we all believe that in the future of COVID-19, we will still have personal interactions, of course. But forcing them to go all digital probably speed track their development 3 years.
Well, I think that's probably one of the key points, Dick, is that, you know, I mean, we were, as a company, very grateful that we had Diakrit on board because we already had a lot of the tools that were required. But the speed at which everyone's had to accelerate to this digital platform has been quite phenomenal. So, like, what would you say are probably some of the new trends that you're seeing coming out, or, you know, what are companies embracing, or what do they need to embrace moving forward in this new world?
I mean, for us also, being quite an efficient business, time management and really valuing what you do with your time, for me, stands out. I mean, if you're running opens and you're running a good business and you really, up until this COVID, maybe haven't had to be super efficient, this pandemic for me states that you really have a limited access of time. Because if you can't run big opens, and if you can't really process as you've done in the past, and you can basically maybe work with smaller groups of private inspections, you really have to pre-qualify and work with your database and clients to access who's window shopping and who's really a key potential buyer or a vendor.
Yes.
So what I really see now is that digital platforms or assets as the Diakrit tools, or the processes where you communicate and pre-qualify a potential buyer, that is for me a huge trend that I'm seeing basically across the 2,000 clients.
Absolutely.
They really now work in a different way. They pre-qualify buyers, calling them up, doing Zoom meetings like you and I are doing.
Yeah.
Taking them through the digital assets of the property, may be a virtual tour, may be the furniture application, and really take that time and see, is this a potential buyer that I will invest time to go to the property with?
Yeah.
Since again, if we think, let's assume that there was no pandemic, let's assume that there was always just a shortage of time, that this is actually increasing us or improving us on our time management.
Yeah.
Because this is a field where I've seen a lot of clients and a lot of agents not doing their best in the past. They're doing okay and they're doing decent business, but the ones that have optimized their time management, they have prospered in the past.
Yeah.
And I believe this will be a huge shift going forward.
I agree, Dick. I think that's a very key observation, and I do feel that this has forced everybody to become so much more efficient with time, with their bottom line, with how much paper we're using. All of a sudden we couldn't give out paper. Nobody wanted to touch anything. So nobody was even face to face. So all of a sudden everybody's come up with these new ways of doing things. And, digital has always been so important, but we've also gone, well, we can't get rid of the paper. So, we'll use the digital, but we have to have the paper. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, we can't use the paper. So it's just kind of cleaned everything up so much and so phenomenally. So I feel there's been a full embracing of the digital side of things. Where's it going from here, Dick? Like what would we expect to see coming up, like without divulging too many of your company's secrets? Like,
and again, there's again, I'm happy to share my view on the future. I really believe, and for me, as to my team and to my clients and you, Val, and many others in the world, for me, it is really about safety. And again, with that safety as the bottom foundation, it's really like, okay, if I'm talking to my mom and dad, I mean, they're in their 70s, and of course, they're really scared. I mean, this virus, okay, it's clearly very aggressive to the elderly population.
Yeah.
But I think, again, this is not the last virus that we will see in this global environment that we are living in. And I mean, it's not like it's going to happen every year, but in the back of our heads as business owners, and if it's you, Val, or myself, for me at least, it will always be there in the back of my mind. How will the global society work forward? And I believe that safety first means that you need to tailor solutions to individuals and groups in the society more than you ever have. There's not a one-size-fits-all going forward. If you have a vendor or a buyer that is really hesitant to be in public or to be managing larger crowds, you have to have solutions to manage that.
Yeah.
And not just on-the-go solutions like, oh, this is just during lockdown 2, and when we go to lockdown 1, everything is happy-dandy.
Yeah.
I really believe that a business owner of the future, may be a restaurant, may be a travel agency, may be a real estate agency, need to look at their community and their buyers and their vendors and their agents, of course, to keep them safe and to tailor solutions to them. So if you want to go to an open, you go to an open. If you want to have a private inspection, you want to have a private inspection. If you only want to view the property digitally, you do that.
Yeah.
And for me, that is keeping everybody safe. But on top of that, I mean, what do you need papers for?
True.
I mean, really, as you said, for me, it's looking at when I had my 3-year-old riding his bike or my daughter's riding the bike for the first time. You put the support wheels on, and they really believed they could never ride a bike without it, right? Until you took him away.
Yeah.
Then they cracked the code. You know what? I don't need these support wheels anymore because I want to ride on my own, and I want to ride uphill and downhill. And for me, paper, inefficiency, that is all support wheels. It's been there in the past because it's like your cuddle blanket. It's nice to have and it feels safe and all of that. But really, to challenge yourself now in this new environment and say, what do I need it for?
Yeah.
Why would I not build digital processes and efficiencies? And as I also say it to you, Val, regarding my business and our business, regarding our offices, I truly believe in the future that office space will have a different meaning.
Yes.
How we interact with our teams may be social Fridays. So we have a tremendous, huge office in Bangkok, 500 staff, top of the skyscraper, and we will tear it down.
Yeah.
We will leave that office end of June. We will be out of office till end of December, and then we will decide how will the future look.
Yeah.
Will it be a communication center where we bring in people once a week for training? KPI assessment, social bonding, the cultural development of the business. But it's, in my view, it's never going back to the same structure I've had in my offices over the last 18 years.
Yeah.
It's going to be something different.
And that's the exciting part, I think, too, Dick, is, that we have such an opportunity here to change up the way we do business, the way we interact, the properties we lease, and the environment that our teams are working in. So do you think the world is going to just go, let's go back to normal and try and forget that COVID's happened? And if that does happen, you're going to be a game changer there. Like, what does that all mean?
I think, at least for myself, I mean, I started my business in 2001, like a few weeks before 9/11. Of course, like all of us went through the GFC. Now we're seeing the coronavirus. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I just feel, why didn't I start business in the 70s when everything was nice and easy, everything was easy to run business? But I think going forward, I don't think there is anything called normal. I mean, we always evolve, right? And I mean, stuff happened like the 9/11, the GFC, now this COVID pandemic. I believe it's just opportunity to implement change, to improve your business and the way we do and how we act as individuals. And for me, I mean, I got 3 kids. Of course, like you living in Adelaide, we have a privilege, Val. I have a home in Sweden. I have the kids in school in Bangkok. So I think from that, it's a safe environment to have them here in Sweden now, like you have them in Adelaide. So I really don't think there is a like going back to a normal. I believe that businesses like acting like, hey, this is just a few weeks or maybe a few months and everything is going to be the same. Yeah, they will probably don't be in business in 5 years. Yeah, because the ones in your industry, in my industry, in any industry now that take advantage of this opportunity and reshape the business, may it be a restaurant, may it be a car dealer, may it be a travel, whatever it is, this is the time to really assess how you want to run your business past COVID. Yeah. And so we talk about being agile, not fragile. And so what advice would you give to any business out there right now, moving forward? What's some of the key things they need to focus on? I mean, I don't want to be a fearmonger at all. And I mean, best case, we find a vaccine and this virus is gone in X amount of time. And that's brilliant. I mean, for me as a business owner, I really felt this could be the one that either breaks us or really pivots us. Yeah. And for us to take that decision, what kind of foot we're going to lean on, it was really planning for the worst. Yeah. When we went into this, we really went into the war room. We sat there for 3 days going all bananas. What could we, in a worst case scenario, what does this really mean? Yeah. It means we can't travel. Societies will be in lockdown. People will be dying. and there is no cure. And hopefully we will come out of this. Everybody that we know of is untouched by this virus, and basically we all stay safe, and the families are staying healthy, and our businesses keep running.
Yeah.
But for me, it was really that standpoint of, hey, we got to plan for the worst. As I said in Bangkok, we got to plan for a complete lockdown. We got to plan for that. Again, we won't be able to travel from our homes. We have to operate from our homes. And for me, that was really the key, to plan for the worst, hope for the best. And if the best hits, then we are a better business. We are stronger, we are agile, we're leaner than we've ever been. And we will then pivot in whatever the new normal will be.
Yeah, I love it. I think that idea of planning for the worst case scenario and hoping for the best outcome is a really key business strategy. And, you know, none of us know what's going to happen to global prices of property, and that's the next impact we may face. And you know, I'm in little old Adelaide, so we're fairly well insulated. However, there's going to be an impact, and there will be an impact across the globe. So I guess for all agencies out there to, you know, be mindful of that, and not just be expecting a completely rosy outcome with no changes to pricing. We've all got to prepare for that worst outcome, train for it, and be ready for it so that we can handle that when it occurs. So on a family scale, Dick, you've got kids. What do you say to your kids about all of this? Like, what are you doing to prepare them for, you know, the future? Is that an okay question to ask?
Yeah, of course. There's no, all questions are okay. Well, I mean, I got 3 kids. They're 9 and 13, and my eldest just turned 16 yesterday. So they are in that age where we can communicate to them. They don't read the news every day, of course, but we talk to them every morning and at dinner regarding, again, what do we see and what do we experience, and how do we interpret it. Yeah. So they are really keen on understanding what's happening. And for me, I'm happy that we get to experience this together when they're at an age that they actually will remember before and after. So for me, over just the last 10 to 12 weeks, of course, the one thing that we have been focusing on is, of course, staying safe and staying healthy and respecting that we don't know enough yet about this virus, how it will impact. Will it mutate? Right now, it's clear that it's hurting the elderly population and the one with underlying diseases. But it could mutate. Val, you have kids. What if it mutates and it starts hitting on the kids? I mean, can you imagine how that isolation would look? And I think from that, and also in these conversations, which I have, again, with teenage girls, I'm feeling that they are really keen to discuss. That means also that we as a family have actually pivoted in our communication, which makes me extremely happy, because hand on heart, my teenage girls, they were not the easiest to communicate prior to COVID. Really? Surprising. And really now when we are in, I would say, in the middle of it, they are, of course, very affected by it, because their schools in Bangkok, they closed basically 2 weeks before we flew back to Sweden. And now, of course, they're still going distance schooling to Bangkok, because the school in Bangkok is still closed. So it's still going on distance schooling. And they are doing distance schooling here from Sweden, waking up like 5 a.m. every morning to be in classes in Bangkok. And so, of course, it affects them a lot.
Absolutely.
But also, like you in Adelaide, our house outside of Stockholm, it's a very rural area. It's green. Everybody can go outside. We, of course, have the privilege of really feeling safe in this time. So I think that makes them also appreciate what they have. And they also start to dawn on them that this concept of travel for the foreseeable future, it won't be there. And that's it was dawning in the beginning, but it's slowly starts to grow on them, that appreciate the local and really see what you have and appreciate what you have in a bigger sense.
And I think that is absolutely one of the key things we can take out of all of this as well, is that isolation, spending more time with our families, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in the house, not sitting in your office while the family's at home. I think even my dogs have benefited from this because they're old. Like in human years, they're like 95. So they've been able to just sit in front of the fire and not have to be outside. So I think providing we can all take the beautiful aspects out of this, along with the sad and difficult aspects, I think we've just got to focus on what we can do, not what we're not in control of. And for anyone in sales or in a business of any description, it's really about focusing on what we can do to get through this.
Yeah. And I mean, for you, Val, I mean, in your business, I mean, in Adelaide, what's the feeling you've gone through in your society, in your community, and with your team and with your family?
Yeah, so I think for 4 weeks there, it was quite scary. Things changed very rapidly. It sort of dawned upon all of us within a couple of days that this was real. So I think we'd all been watching it on the news and going, no, that's not coming here. It's going to be okay. And then all of a sudden it hit around the globe, and we were seeing places like Sweden and UK and some of the other countries really have this wave of horror sweeping across them. And so it very dramatically changed things overnight. And there was a lot of running and catching up, and like you said, going into the war room and strategizing and going, well, this is Armageddon. What do we have to do to survive? I think that's clearing for us now. Where we didn't go into a stage 4 lockdown. We were very fortunate. Unlike New Zealand, we haven't had to face some of the things they have. We've just opened up. We just started doing our first open inspections this weekend with no more than 10 people at a time. So, and that's not 10 groups, that's just 10 people. So we feel like things are lifting. But I believe an interview like this with you, Dick, is going to be critical for quite some time because, of course, people are talking about this second wave that may happen. You just mentioned before a second, third, fourth. What happens? And this may not be the first, event that does occur. And I think it's important that we just keep that in our minds and go from this point forward. We've got to be agile, not fragile. We've got to be efficient. We've got to make sure we don't just rest on our laurels and go, oh, that's over. We can just go back to normal. It's got to be a new kind of normal, and it's got to be a brave new world. We can't just go back to what we did before. That won't cut it anymore in today's business world or world in general.
And I think just in a few weeks, I mean, just doing Zoom, and I mean, you, Val, and myself, we've been digital for a long time, and I mean, we've been comfortable with that. But I mean, if I'm looking at agents and vendors and buyers today, I mean, they're probably doing 2 to 4 minimum sessions a day with digital interactions like this, and that didn't happen 12 weeks ago. No. I mean, sure, everybody was picking up the phone and maybe sending a text or doing something, but this interaction, it is becoming the new norm.
Yeah.
And again, people more than ever, I think, want to stay safe.
Yeah.
Again, because again, if there's gun violence or whatever, there's domestic abuse or whatever, this small virus, it's hard to comprehend for anybody. You're going outside, it's a beautiful spring day here in Sweden, and you know that there's 100 people a day dying here in Sweden. So the ICUs are crammed with people. So it's this bizarre reality that it's something going on when spring is here, and it's beautiful spring day, and that is hard to comprehend. And I think for anybody, doesn't matter if you're a kid or myself or you or my parents, it's extremely hard to comprehend. And I think with that, as looking at your vendor community and your buyer community and your agents and overall in your community, to really put that safety first perspective.
Yeah.
And then with that, you will rebuild your business model. You will come out stronger as a business operator. And it will be really from the core of your value proposition. Because I know that Timms is running on family values and community values. And that goes hand in hand with safety first.
Yeah.
And that will always be relevant in today's society and in the future society.
Yeah. Amazing advice, Dick.
Basic.
Is there anything you want to sort of say in summary at all, or any sort of?
I mean, for me, it's a privilege to have you on the other line here, Val, and to have this opportunity to ask you also how the family's going and your local community. Because right now, what I'm missing most is, of course, to have that face to face. I mean, really, to be in Adelaide or to be in Auckland or in Sydney right now, which has basically been my last 5 years traveling through Australia, New Zealand, and really being close to business operators like yourself. And for me right now, it's a bit of a mourning of that. But with that said, I think these kind of interactions and chats, it helps a long way. And just happy to see your business thriving and really growing and resetting in this unique environment.
Thank you. And your travels will happen again, Dick.
No worries again. There's no rush.
It will happen again. But I think, isn't it beautiful that we, to a degree, are unable to travel so we can be with family? You know, and at a time like this where it's, you know, you've got 3 children, you know, that you can spend the time having dinner with them every night and just explaining what's going on, so that, you know, that these are all the blessings.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a silver lining to it, without a doubt. And as a business owner, Val, this is, again, it's just a good reason and opportunity to pivot.
Yeah.
And just make it more efficient, make it really agile, and look at yourself and say, what are my support wheels that I've been using for so long that I really don't need? And keep asking these questions, like, again, you setting up this interview and being curious and looking at trends and opportunity. Hey,
it's great. Best. It's like a shedding. It's a shedding, isn't it? So, you know, Dick, you're a superstar. You are leading, fearlessly leading an incredible global company. And I just heartfelt want to say thank you for speaking to me and to our listeners who are going to be watching this interview. And I know everyone's going to get a whole lot out of it. So I really appreciate that you've come all the way from Sweden over the Zoom to share your pearls of wisdom.
Easy. It was my privilege, Val.
Thank you, Dick.
Talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.